What's up, guys and gals? This is Griever back here, bringing you guys another Zelda Twilight Princess episode review, a manga review, volume number 5. Now, this volume, ladies and gentlemen, is probably the fattest volume, so to speak. You know, it's got quite a bit in it. In all honesty, this is so far, I think it's my favorite. It's hard to pick, really, because once again, it's one big, long story, and this isn't exactly... It's split into like a manga volume would, but it's not like it was a week-to-week chapter release or anything, so you get a feeling of an overall storyline. Let's just move forward at some points. At some points, the pacing seems very quick, and at other points, it's like we're going to really flesh out this scene. And that's probably some of the good points of having a straight volume release in that sense. But I think this is my favorite volume. I really do. Because there's so many moments I want to talk about. And once again, just the art. The art alone is just... Is that not beautiful? Is that not... Like, some of this art is just... You know, it's beside itself, right? There we go. Sorry, the camera's in reverse right now. I had to fix some camera issues. But, yeah, I'm amazed. I'm amazed at how good they have captured the essence of Legend of Zelda, Twilight Princess, while still giving an ode to not only the fans of Ocarina of Time, but Majora's Mask and Twilight Princess, all in one volume. It's incredible. Not only do we get the fact that Midna, at the beginning of the volume, calls out to Link. If you remember at the end of the last volume, and spoilers ahead if you guys haven't read the volumes, I will be talking about what happens in the volume. Though I feel like this review will be a little bit short, honestly, because I don't want to do a full page-by-page review or anything like that. I just want to talk about some key points, some key nostalgic points that I really felt brought a lot to the table in this volume. And some of those things was, once again, at the end of the last volume, Zant showed up. They did the Fuse Shadow thing. They found them all. Zant shows up. And then Lanryu, I think that's his name, Lanryu, the guardian spirit, the snake one of the Lakebed Temple, attacks Zant, but is quickly defeated. And they can't realize what it is. Alright, there's two moments here. First and foremost, Midna calls out to Link. Says his name for the first time. Big deal. Big character development. And after this point, she just commonly refers to him as Link multiple times in this volume. That's great. That's wonderful character. And I like the fact that Link kind of... Like, he doesn't really acknowledge it in some big, meaningful scene or anything. Like, the meaningful thing was that she never said his name. Once she did, he did not really bring it up again. Not for some huge epic scene like at the end of Volume 4. So, I like that aspect. I mean, of course, they had other things to go over. But there was that, and also the fact... I like the fact that the Guardian Spirit recognizes, like, no, this power is not part of the Twili. It's not part of, it's not the cursed shadow power. It's not dark power. This is something more. This is something that no one can really contend with. Zant starts to boast, saying it's the power of his god. Now, here's the thing. I want to draw your attention, ladies and gentlemen, to a certain scene. It's right near the beginning of the volume. You see, there we are, this scene. This is now fully explained. This shows us, completely shows us, that the hero of time, the greatest hero of all time, who was never appreciated in his actual lifetime, for his great deeds, for saving the land of Hyrule, for saving the world. Went on, Majora's Mask happened and everything, but he regretted and became the hero's shade, the golden wolf, the white wolf. And clearly, no longer had the form he once did, the power he once held, was no longer possible. And for whatever reason, and I like to think that they may explain this eventually, because it seems like they are focusing on this, something they should have focused on more heavily in Twilight Princess, but I still really enjoy Twilight Princess and the references therein, that the hero of time, our Link from our childhood, didn't have his power anymore. He was not but a wolf, and a wolf can only do so much. Though he had regalness about him and the power of a hero, he no longer held the Triforce of Courage, nor did he hold the Master Sword. And due to this fact, and due to the fact that Zant was backed by not only a piece of the Triforce of Power, but Ganondorf himself, plus Zant's own strength, our hero of time was once again, I feel, humiliated in a sense. His time had finally come, almost a century later, after everyone never knew of his deeds in the first place. And now he can no longer, even then, 100 years later, his time has finally come to rise up to be the hero that he was, that he can be once again. And the odds, he was handicapped. And it's showcased in the dialogue, it's showcased in the acts, it's showcased by Midna's realization of this. It's a wonderful, wonderful scene. One panel says it all to me. And I love it. And then, of course, we get the fact that he's still not dead. Our hero of time will continue to bring us faith and power and necessary escapes. Though he was defeated due to so many handicaps, he continues to aid our young Link, our adolescent, our Link, our hero of time in training. And he manages to get him out of there and tells him, brave hero, go see Zelda. That's the only way to make this work. So they travel. Midna has been tarnished. Zant speaks in her ear, all this stuff. They go, they see Zelda. We get a whole backstory. Half of this volume, like literally like this much, is taken up by a backstory not seen in the game. And I like this backstory. This backstory talks about both Zelda and Midna meeting as small princess girls, seeking this forbidden pool, a forbidden mirror, etc., that they weren't supposed to look into. They became friends. There was a lot there, but at the end of the day, people found out. Things were blocked off. They were mere children. You can't trust the demons of this world. You can't trust beings of light. That was it. So when Link brings, it all comes full circle. It's actually very heartfelt. And that's why I mean this is one of the fattest, one of the thickest volumes. Because we have to go over this backstory while still continuing the main drag. But we have this whole section where we have Zelda. And she knew from the get-go Midna was her lost friend, the one that she broke a promise with to say, I will bring you my treasure. And she had no treasure. You're thinking it's the Ocarina of Time. It's the Majora's Mask. It's a melody. It's the Master Sword. It's a secret. At the end of the day, what it is, my treasure is you, your friendship. It's heartfelt. It's warming. There's a slow pace build-up to this fact. And it's very hard to do that. Because for a series that is now only 6 volumes strong, in the 5th volume, without foreshadowing, and still continuing the main story of a game that they still need to follow the linear path to, they managed to add an entire side story in one volume and still make it emotional. And it brings so much more weight. It makes sense. Now we can fully understand. In the game, it was just like, okay, Zelda gave up her life force at random to save one person. I mean, at the end of the day, yeah, that's great and all, but who's going to lead this resistance? Who's gonna do this, that, and the other thing? This is the Princess of Destiny as she has been in every game to save Midna. But in this volume, it finally makes sense. We have an entire backstory as to why she would willingly, no question, find out what's wrong with Link, tell him go get the Master Sword, and where it is, and then give up her life for Midna. The friend she broke a promise to. And she knew who it was the whole time, but she couldn't bring herself to tell her. And she apologizes and saves her life. And in this act, Midna is humbled. We see tears in her eyes. And then they move forward. They move forward to a place that was one of the only times outside of the first one I can think of is The Last of Us. But it was one of the times that I got very choked up playing a video game. When I realized finally where we were going. When I realized that the enemies I was fighting were Skull Kids. When I walked up the steps. When I heard the music and knew where I was. And finally realized that the ruins of the Temple of Time, the door of time stayed strong, and now here was the Master Sword. You can say they skipped an entire temple, and that's fair. They did. But I like the fact that that temple wasn't there. I like that the game was long, and I don't mind it in game, but in story, it makes more sense. That there's no puzzle. There's no fighting. There's no Skull Kids screwing you around, Monkey screwing you around, Guardian screwing you around with the Triforce of Courage to send it to Link. You know, I like to believe. The Skull Kids were waiting for our hero time to come back. They've been waiting for 100 years for their friend. Now, whether you take this as the Skull Kids, because a lot of people, it doesn't matter. Either way, the Skull Kid from Majora's Mask, the Skull Kid from Ocarina of Time, all of them. It doesn't matter which one you like to believe that the one in this manga is. It could be one and the same. It could be both. It could be multiple of them. They want them to come and play with them again. There's more than one Skull Kid after all. And so they could all be there. The Skull Kids from Ocarina of Time. The one you saved in Majora's Mask. They have been guarding this place for their hero. For their only friend in the world. And they've been waiting a century for him to come back. And they think, after all these years, once again, they're in the woods. They're wild spirits. They're kind of like a Tom Bombadil. They don't really fully grasp things, and they start to lose pieces. Memory and importance doesn't really matter, but what matters to them is the promise they made to a friend. Their true friend to guard this place. That's all they remember. They mistaken our Link in Twilight Princess for the hero of time. There's so much goddamn emotion in this volume. So much. The rest of the volume, you know what, we're not even going to talk about it. They go to the Arbiter's grounds, they find the sages, they meet up with the resistance. A lot of things happen, but the first half of this volume is nothing but emotional and nostalgic point after point after point after point. And for someone who grew up, it being my favorite video game series probably of all time, I think I can honestly say that the Zelda series is my favorite video games ever. As a whole, I think they are. You know, there's some contenders, but Zelda is the nostalgia, Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, the Oracle games. They're Twilight Princess itself. Like, it's one of the greatest stories ever, and I have a feeling, given the importance of the hero shade, given the importance in this volume alone, I feel like before the series is over, we may see, unlike in Twilight Princess, because there's been so much poetic license with this, so much added things, so much non-canon to the game things, but I don't care. Usually I'm a stickler for canon, but I don't care. This brings it. This gives me the nostalgia boost. You can tell that the mangaka, that the author, who's a set of women, if I remember correctly, it's 2 women that make up Akira Himekawa. They also feel the nostalgia for the hero of time, and I feel like we will get proper closure. And I might cry, guys, because this got to me. This really got to me. Everything about it, the emotional journey that this Link has taken, that he's guided by the kind of... You ever watch a show or a movie where they get rid of the main character, or it's a season 2 of something with a new cast? It's been 3 years since the war. It's been 5 years since the epicness, you know? You get sequels to games, sequels to anime, sequels to manga, and you're just waiting for the true badass, the main character, to show up again. Like, it's okay if you like the new main character, but you know that your old main character, the one that you watched and were emotional about and grew up with, you know that he's going to come back. And when he comes back, he's going to make this guy look like a bitch. And you know it every single time. It's happened in so many mangas, animes, video games, cartoons that I have watched ever, is that no matter how cool the Teen Titans are, no matter how cool Robin becomes, when Batman shows up back from the dead after 100 episodes, when Batman shows up, you get the cheer in the theater. Right? No matter how cool your new teenage heroes are, no matter how cool the veterans that you grew up with that have become veterans, you will always appreciate the veterans. It's the same with anime. People always say nostalgia glasses, but it's still a thing where you know that no matter how cool Luffy, Naruto, I mean this is older, but Luffy, Naruto, and Ichigo were, you knew at the end of the day that Goku was their mentor. He was the one standing above them. Not for any power scaling, not for good character, not for a better manga, but just standing there as the godfather, as the grandfather. He's the veteran hero. That's the best word I can choose. He's the veteran that when he shows up on screen in full HD, back in Super Saiyan form, that means so much to the fan base and such, and I feel like that's what this manga is doing. It's giving us, not only telling the story of Twilight Princess and giving its due, but also recognizing the potential that was there to give the hero of time some peace, some nostalgia, some peace of mind, and give the fan base what they deserved to showcase our favorite Link. The one from Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask. So guys, this has been my probably longest review of this volume. It was the longest volume. It was my favorite volume, the most emotional volume. And I really wanted to talk about it for a while, but I really had to go over it a few times, make sure I didn't miss anything. I probably did in all honesty, there were some epic moments, some good explanations of things. If I had to have one critique, it's not about the manga itself. It's about the fact that they made faceless sages in game and stuff, and it would have been way cooler. Once again, nostalgia pandering. We wanted to see Impa. We wanted to see Ruto. We wanted to see Saria. That's who we wanted to see. We did not want to see these faceless sages we've never met. We wanted to see the sages from Ocarina of Time. So that's my one gripe about Twilight Princess as a whole, out of everything, and that's my one gripe. I almost wish that they kind of went a little too far and changed it in the manga as well. But that being said, like, comment, and subscribe. This has been Griever. It's been a long-ass review, but the Volume 6 review will be out probably next week or so. And that's the latest volume as far as I'm aware. I don't know when Volume 7 is coming out, but they'll finally be caught up, and so when Volume 7 comes out, it'll be much closer to its release date if I have the money and resources to buy it. So thanks, guys, so much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed and love Legend of Zelda as much as I do. We'll see you back here next time. Peace out.